Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sutras of the Sri-Sriman's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBD Founder Sharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 29, Text 25, and then we'll do that together, and then I'm going to also read 26, just myself. Okay. Acārya-ādau acharet tāvad. Acārya-ādau acharet tāvad. īśvaram sva-karma-kṛt. īśvaram sva-karma-kṛt. yāvan veda sva-hṛdi. yāvan veda sva-hṛdi. sarva-bhūteṣv avasthitam. sarva-bhūteṣv avasthitam. Tāvad īśvaram sva-karma-kṛt. Vaishnavis. Okay. Arcā-ādau. Beginning with the worship of the deity. Arcayet, one should worship. Tāvat, so long. īśvaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mam, me. Swa, his own. Karma, prescribed duties. Kṛt, performing. Yāvat, as long as. Na, not. Veda, he realizes. Sva-hṛdi, in his own heart. Sarva-bhūteṣu, in all living entities. Avasthitam, situated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This is Lord Kapila speaking. Performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well. Purport. Worship of the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is prescribed herewith, even for persons who are simply discharging their prescribed duties. There are prescribed duties for the different social classes of men, the brāhmaṇas, the vaiśyas, the kṣatriyas, and the śūdras, and for the different āśramas-brahmacarya, gṛhastha, vānaprastha, and sannyāsa. One should worship the deity of the Lord until one appreciates the presence of the Lord in every living entity. In other words, one should not be satisfied simply by discharging his duties properly. He must realize his relationship and the relationship of all other living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he does not understand this, even though he discharges his prescribed duties properly, it is to be understood that he is simply laboring without profit. The word sva-karma-kṛt in this verse is very significant. Sva-karma-kṛt is one who engages in discharging his prescribed duties. It is not that one who has become a devotee of the Lord or engages in devotional service should give up his prescribed duties. No one should be lazy under the plea of devotional service. One has to execute devotional service according to his prescribed duties. Sva-karma-kṛt means that one should discharge the duties prescribed for him without neglect. And then I'm going to do 26 here. Atmanascha parashyapi yakaroti yantarodaram tasya bina dudaso mature vidade bayam ulbanam. Translation: as the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least distinction between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. Purport. There are bodily differentiations among all varieties of living entities, but a devotee should not distinguish between one living entity and another on such a basis. A devotee's outlook should be should be that both the soul and the supersoul are equally present in all varieties of living entities. Om Vajnatamanandasya Janunjana Shalakaya Chakshut Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Galamaya Vedati Svaparantikam. So in the purport to the first verse, the one we all did together, Prabhupada says, talks about how one has to realize his relationship the relationship of all living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and if he does not understand this, then even though he discharges his prescribed duties, it is to be understood that he is simply laboring without profit. So does that sound familiar to anybody? Does that, what Prabhupada just said there, does that sound familiar? Does that remind you, I'll be more precise, does that remind you of a verse from the Bhagavatam? Okay, wow. Yeah, that's it. Go ahead, quote it. And translation? Occupational duties performed. Yeah, if it doesn't help you develop an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. If you're performing your prescribed duties, but you're not becoming more Krishna conscious or God conscious, you're missing the whole point. Because the whole point is, to become more Krishna conscious, more God conscious as a result of whatever we do. Okay, so that's stated there. And that's pretty, serious stuff. Nobody wants to think that, hey, everything I'm doing is a waste of time, okay? But in the next translation, Kapila Dev, he raises the bar like anything. This is enough of a bad outcome, that whatever I'm doing is simply I'm laboring without profit. But listen to what Kapila Dev says in the next text. He says, as the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. That's way heavier, right? I mean, it's one thing to, okay, I wasted my time, I didn't get, but it's another, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself is saying he's going to cause great fear to those whoever makes that least, the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. That's pretty heavy, right? Well, yes and no, and I'll explain. So Kapila Dev is making this statement, but there's a practical application to it. In other words, if you have this differential outlook, I'll read the purport again. The bodily actually, did I read the purport to this one? I don't think I did. There are bodily differentiations among all varieties of living entities, but a devotee should not distinguish between one living entity and another on such a basis. A devotee's outlook should be that both the soul and the supersoul are equally present in all varieties of life. So, practically speaking, how that works is this. Why this is such a serious thing. I'll try to explain. Okay, so recently on Sankirtan, I've been using a new approach with Christians. They come to the table, so I know they're Christians, and, we exchange some whatever. And then at some point I say to them, so, do you believe that God created everything? And they go, sure, yeah. I mean, Christians believe that God created everything. So I say, okay, so that means he created animals, right? Because, if he created everything, this is just logic. If he created everything, he's have to, as a subset, of course he created animals, right? Yeah, sure. Okay, so it seems to me pretty obvious that he created animals with feelings, right? And they agree. Everybody knows animals have feelings, right? And then I say, well, but it seems like the feelings of the animals are just being like trampled upon, on a regular daily basis. They're being cruelly and inhumanely treated and slaughtered in the same way. Actually, if you go on the internet, I did this about a half a dozen times because I was bewildered. I was like flabbergasted by what I was reading. I did a search that said, how many creatures are killed daily worldwide? So taking fish and everything, 5 billion. It was like, wow, what a staggering number. In other words, what does that due to? That's due to what we're hearing here. Discriminating between the body and the living entity. See, the devotee, a human being, is supposed to be able to say, okay, here is this fish, or here is this cow, or here is this duck or pig. They got this body, okay? So my purpose is not that I should try to exploit them for my own sense gratification, but how can I, do something to help elevate them? Nobody's thinking like that. Nobody's thinking how to elevate other living creatures. They're just thinking how to exploit. And as a result of that is 5 billion creatures or animals, okay, are being killed daily, worldwide. It's hundreds of millions here in the United States. Now, if you stop and think about that, to me anyway, that's insanity. That's absolute insanity. Why is it insanity? Okay, for one reason, it's unnecessary. I've been a vegetarian for 56 years. I'm still alive, I'm doing okay. So you don't need to do that. Why else is it insanity? Because there's so many other options, and even if they say, well, human, what can they say? What can anybody say? It's obviously insanity. See, so we're living in a world where there's somehow or another, there's like, David Amrita Swami used the expression mass consensual trance. Somehow or another, in the background, people walking around and they kind of look like they're normal but no, this activity is going on, all over the world. So it's kind of insanity, and and of course, that. So I asked him. So why do you think God is a sadist? We agreed that He created everything, which means he created animals, and he created animals with feelings. And what's happening to animals on a regular daily basis is they're being, tortured and killed and, subjected to incredible suffering. So is God a sadist? Because it's his plan. No, you can't blame God. You can't blame Krishna or God or Jesus, whatever you want to call it. It's people. People are acting against, human beings are acting against God's will. You see? That's what's going on. Human beings are acting against God's will. God doesn't want human beings to be doing that to all these animals. It's not like a small thing. It's a big thing, 5 billion, So, but they're doing it. So there's going to be consequences. There's going to be a reaction. Right? I try to avoid looking at the news because I just consider it now like a bad habit, like smoking or drinking or something like that. It's just mundane, okay? But if somebody told me, well, hey, did you hear the news is like such and such? Oh, yeah, so they dropped a nuclear bomb here on the United States and it caused some atmospheric disturbance and there's, the fallout is spreading for hundreds of miles in every direction. And my response, I wouldn't be freaked. My response to that would be like, well, what do you expect? I mean, does the human race really think, it does, but unfortunately, but that it can kill billions of animals daily and there's not going to be any consequence? Well, if there was no God, yeah. But if there's God, no way. There's going to be some very severe consequence for that. So that's something to consider. And so that's what we shouldn't be doing. Okay, that's on the negative side. Kapila Dev's saying don't have a differential outlook, and that's what I just described is an extreme example of what happens if you have a different. Because thinking, feeling, willing. It starts off what's going on in your head. Okay, so if you have that differential outlook, if you think that, yeah, these are just bodies, there's nothing to do with the soul or super, then yeah, it makes sense that you can act like that. But that's a really, example of extreme negative differential outlook. Okay, so what's the positive thing though? What are we supposed to be doing? We're not supposed to be doing that, obviously. How are we supposed to be relating to other living entities? Well, Vijavanaya sampane, brahmani gavi hastani, sune chaiva sopakecha, pandita samadarshana. The humble sage sees with equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, the cow, the elephant, the dog eater. To me, that means try to engage everybody in devotional service. That's the correct way. Of course, we're just one little person, but that's the correct response. Try to engage everybody in devotional service. Humans, animals, whatever you're coming in contact with. I have a program that I've been doing it for some years, and I'm fond of it. If I have leftover prasadam, I put it in a pot, I keep it in the freezer, and at the end of the week I go to the back of West LA College, because it's like unused land, and I just put it on the land. And when I come back the next week, it's gone. Sometimes I've come back, if I had guests, my wife has guests or something like that, I might come back 2 days later, it's gone. You can count on the animals. They just, they take care of everything. So, but it's good. It's good for me because I don't have to have, the offense of throwing prasadam in the garbage, right? Which is not, prasadam is non-different from Krishna. You don't want to do that. And it's good for them. They're getting prasadam. And they're doing service. They're helping me. They're helping me from committing the offense of throwing prasadam out, and they're getting prasadam, so they're getting benefit, and I really enjoy doing that, And sometimes when I get out there, I say, God bless the animals, man. These guys they're terrific. They're so reliable. So that's one thing. But then for people, we try to, give them Krishna consciousness. My service is book distribution, and it's real easy. It's not, sometimes you get devotees get in their head like, no, it's so simple. I'm going to just give you a quick demo of what I do, okay? So if I was out on a college campus and I saw Moses here, Bhakta Moses, I'd say, hang on, let me start off here. I'm trying to remember my opener. Oh yeah, okay. I see him and I go, sir, that's what I call a hairstyle. That's what I call a hairstyle. I wish I could do that. And it's, the idea is a compliment. You start off with a compliment. If it was somebody like a who I could see work there, and they're all dressed up, and I say, sir, madam, that's what I call a professional appearance, man. You look like a president or something. You give the person a compliment, breaks the ice. Immediately they're ready to talk to you. If you just go cold, if you just say, do you work here or are you a student? Sometimes students, they're very simple and innocent. They'll even stop with that. But if you're on a parking lot, forget it. Unless you give a person a compliment to start off with on a parking lot, your history, they just, they just go right by you, So, and this is bona fide. This is parampara. Prabhupada used to quote Prabodhananda Saraswati, and he used to paraphrase saying, flatter them like anything. You see, so it's not like it's some concoction. It's actually parampara. So you give them a compliment. I say, so, sir, that's what I call a hairstyle, man. What's your major? And you say, psychology. And I say, really, what's your career goal with that? And they say, whatever. And I say, well, come on over. Whatever they say, they're qualified. It's called a qualifying question. Qualified, come on over. So you bring them over to the table. I show them the book. I say, this is actually about inner psychology or psychology. I show them picture changing bodies. And I show them how the consciousness continues afterwards. I say, what's your name, by the way? And you say, Moses. I say, Moses, I got to tell you, man, you look more like a rock star than a psychologist. And then, they just smile. And I say, so, we print these ourselves and we just ask people to give a donation. Could you pitch in something to help out? That's it. And I don't sell sets like that, Srimad Bhagavatam sets. But it's simple, as you could hear. It's very quick and simple. And books go out. People take the book and they give a donation. And if they don't give a donation, we give them like a free book anyway, if they're willing to take one. So my point is that, it's easy to get around this having the differential outlook, And, so it's something, as devotees, we should be trying to progress, trying to move towards that positive thing. We're already kind of like, thank Krishna and Prabhupada, put the negative thing behind us. We're not, no meat eating, no eating meat, fish, or eggs. We're not, involved with that, implicated in that whole thing. But we should also cultivate the positive way, the positive way to deal with living entities, which is try to engage them in devotional service. Actually, I think it was in the previous purport Prabhupada said about giving people prasadam. That's somehow or another. That's the program. That's the program for every devotee. Yade deke tade kaha Krishna upadesh amaya gaya agnaya guruhana tade. Wherever you go, this is Lord Chaitanya's instruction. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. See, that's part of the whole program. In other words, it's good to we commit ourselves to chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles. Very good. That's very good. But you got to go further. You got to go further. Further means you got to have some program, some idea in your head how you're going to share Krishna consciousness with other people. That's part of the package. That's my understanding anyway. Okay. So now, in the second paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada talked about how we shouldn't be lazy. So I'm going to read something. I'm going to read an excerpt from a lecture that Prabhupada gave here in Los Angeles. I think it was like 1970, 71, after hearing this, it'll become kind of obvious to you one very powerful reason why it's to our own interest not to be lazy. Okay, so anyway, let me read this. So Prabhupada's talking about staying strong in Krishna consciousness, and he says, be always engaged in Krishna activities or devotional service. He says, we have got multiple activities. We are practically doing that from morning, 4 o'clock, till 10 o'clock at night. He says, otherwise, Lord Chaitanya's thing was 24 hours engagement, kirtaniya sadahari. And he says the 6 Goswamis were actually doing that, but he pointed out that we can't do that. We're just not on that platform or that level. So we take rest. That's why Prabhupada said we have it from 4 in the morning till 10 at night. And even that's like a big stretch for most devotees these days. But that was Prabhupada's concession. You don't have to be like on the level of the 6 Goswamis, but We start at 4, we end at 10. I think we end here at about 8:30 or 9 or something like that. We close down the temple. Anyway, it goes on. It says, so he says, everyone, that is my request. Always be engaged. Either find out some work, or if you have no work, then chant Hare Krishna. Don't sit idly. Then Maya will not touch you. Otherwise, and here it comes now. She is always very anxious how to capture you. Krishna buliya ji bhoga vanchakare pasate mayatade japatiya dade. Japatiya dade means there is a Bengali word, just like if you catch one person like this, like that, you know, he becomes immediately unfit to move. So Krishna buliya, as soon as we forget Krishna and think of sense gratification, immediately Maya captures us. Yes, sir, come on. Like this. So, and then Prabhupada quotes that verse again, Krishna buliya jiva, bhoga vanchakare, pasate maya tade, and then he stops. He says, Pase, she is always on our side, meaning right next to us. She's always on our side. You haven't got to call. She's right there. You know. Prabhupada goes, she is also as powerful as Krishna. Just like Krishna is present everywhere, similarly Maya is also present everywhere. She is also one of the potencies of Krishna. Just like the police department, it is as powerful as government because it is a department of government. Similarly, Maya is another department of Krishna, so it is as powerful as Krishna. So in other words, obviously it's in our interest not to be lazy, because if we are lazy, you know, then Maya is going to come and grab us. And she's always, as Prabhupada said here, we've just heard, she's looking for the opportunity. You know, she's right there. She's just looking for the opportunity. So we don't want to give her the opportunity. So that's why it's in our own self-interest, what to speak of the interest of the community and there's so many other, but it's in our own self-interest, you know, to not to be lazy, but to be enthusiastic in devotional service. Try to be engaged, you know, like that. So I'll stop there. And if anybody has any question, or I'd like to, you know, hopefully I said something that kind of got somebody going and they might offer some reflection or some comment or something like that. A little exchange here. Okay, any question for starters? Okay, anybody have anything they'd like to, oh, we have a question. Okay, great. Chira Chora Gopinath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for class. So how do we use discrimination or abandon discrimination when it comes to like preaching to new people? Like say, you know, we distribute books. Sometimes we look at someone and think, oh, he's not going to take a book. And then we approach them and then they're like really excited about it. Or maybe new people are coming to the temple, we think, oh yeah, that's going to be difficult to make him a devotee. You know, do we just abandon all discrimination when trying to give people Krishna consciousness?
To a certain extent. In other words, I have my mantra, you know, and everybody gets the mantra. Doesn't matter what they look like, you know, they get the mantra, and they respond or they don't respond, but I've done my duty. So, that makes sense? In other words, whoever's coming, be friendly, be encouraging, you know, just give them the mantra, give them your thing, and then how they respond, that's up to them. If they respond positively, okay, you go further. If they don't, okay, at least, you know, you gave them a chance. That's what I would say practically should work. Yeah?
So it's like how Krishna says he's non-partial, but it's up to us to take advantage of his...
Yeah. Yeah, so we give everybody the opportunity. Somebody comes, or you're on book distribution, you know, give them your lines nicely, enthusiastically, and really try. And then however they respond, that's how they respond. And then on to the next person. Yeah? Anybody else? Arcā-ādau Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Very short class today. What's going on? Anyway. We have to remain individual. We are individual. We can't, it's not that everybody can approach book distribution the way that Bhrgupati does. And I always remember, I think it was 1996, I was in Europe, Scandinavia actually. And one of our godbrothers there, Manidhar, you may have met him. He was giving a seminar on book distribution. He was showing how disparate personalities can still get good results. So he gave the example of one devotee who was very short, less than 6 feet for sure, but he was approached all these average height Europeans who were like 6.5 feet tall. And he would just slap them on the back, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And then he would show them the books. Because in those days, the devotees in Europe used to walk around with a stack, 7, 8, 9 books, and then he would just hand them the stack. Very, very bold. And then he gave the opposite example. There was one Mataji. She was so shy. She would just like show the book, and if the person didn't immediately take, she would just turn away and walk away. And many people would chase her. What is that? Show me that book. So you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself. Don't try to imitate. The idea is spread Krishna consciousness, but everybody will do it in their own way.
Yeah. Prabhupada said to Gopa Vrindapal, when they were asking about what should we say, Prabhupada said, everybody has their own genius.
Yeah.
You know, Krishna will inspire you. So that's true.
Yeah, because you have to feel comfortable. Huh? You have to feel comfortable. Like for myself, you know, we've gone out together, but I'm not so comfortable doing it the way you do, chase after people in the airport when we used to go to the airports. I'm much more comfortable sitting at a book table. And I'm sure Karuna Dharini would agree with me. Karuna Mataji, she likes being at a book table, right? You sit at a table and you try to get people to come over, but you know, you just leave it up to Krishna. You can't force people, you just sit there, and then those who come are generally, you know, the ripe fruit. So it's a little easier, if they approach you, it's a little easier to get them to take the book. But everybody has to distribute Krishna consciousness according to their personality. You can't, you know, imitate Bhrgupati, you can't imitate Naikatma the way he used to do it. Everybody has to find their own way.
Anybody else? Okay, so I'll read you something, Nectar. This is a letter from that Prabhupada wrote to Tejas, our god brother, in Delhi, in 1972. Prabhupada was in Bombay, so Prabhupada says, "My dear Tejas, please accept my blessings. I'm in due receipt of your letter dated 10th, 1972, 10th of December. I'm very much disturbed to hear from you that you have become disturbed in your mind. Don't be disturbed. There is no cause for anxiety. You are doing your best to serve Krishna. That is very much appreciated. So do not lose enthusiasm out of frustration. That will spoil everything. Krishna consciousness means we should always be satisfied and happy, not that we must work something impossible, becoming overburdened, and then because we are unhappy by so much trouble, we lose enthusiasm altogether and give up all hope. No. If too much endeavor is there, that is to be avoided. By all means, we must preserve our spiritual status. That is the point. Not that we are mad after big buildings, many devotees, life members, this, that. No. These are only ways to engage the devotees so that they may apply the principles of devotional living to some kind of work for practical realization of these principles." This is a phenomenal letter. I'll keep reading. It is not the result of the work we want. If only one person we preach to, only one person, if we sincerely preach to just such one person in a day, that is sufficient. Never mind big programs. So my request to you is that you not be bothered by these things. He says, I have instructed Tamal Krishna and Shyamasundar to send you men, so they will do it. Rest assured, Krishna does not like to see his sincere devotees suffer or become frustrated or depressed. He will not stand idly by in any such case. So do not fear on that account. Krishna, this is the end. Krishna has got some plan for you. Always think in that way. And very soon he will provide everything to your heart's desire. Nice letter, huh? Okay, we could end there. Thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.